For this tutorial, we will be drawing a beautiful snowball, and again, we will be using some supplementary materials that will help us to actually draw out the shape correctly. And I will start work with a white charcoal pencil. So I'm gonna place my tape on the paper and draw around just to create that beautiful ball where we will be drawing our beautiful bird inside. And next we need to draw those ellipses for the stand that the ball is actually standing on. So one thing to remember about ellipses, they are constantly in perspective. So we always see them in perspective. We'll never see them completely flat. Maybe if one level of ellipses we will be able to see flat. So if you imagine that this is our stand where the ball stands on, so the more we look at it from above, the more open these ellipses will become. And the top ellipse is always going to be less open than the bottom one. So this is what we have to keep in mind when drawing these ellipses. So for that, I'm imagining where this ball is going to be attached. So approximately just a bit above the bottom line, I'm going to draw out the widest part of my top ellipse, and actually we can open it up a bit more, and I see this one slightly open like so. The part that is closest to us because of the perspective is going to be bigger than the part that is further away from us. And now what we need to do is we need to draw a beautiful ellipse here like so. Next I see that it becomes slightly wider towards the bottom here. So I'm gonna lower this axis where the ellipse is actually built on. And I need to measure that this ellipse is larger than the first one. So if I put it like so, I need to be able to measure this ellipse, and it should be smaller than the bottom one. So this fits fine. And here I'm gonna make it just a bit larger. Also, what's useful sometimes, actually most of the times, is to do a vertical axis and check if your distances are equal. So here I almost guessed it. And now I need to draw another ellipse. And it's going to connect into that one. So here we will need another smaller ellipse. And again, it should be just a bit bigger than the other ellipse that we created, the first one, just to create that connection. Okay, so this is basically the drawing for our ball. And what we need to do now is we need to draw out that bird. So I see that the bird is occupying approximately if we divide this ball in half, it's occupying the top half of the ball. And I'm just drawing out the silhouette. I don't need to draw this bird very detailed. I just need to make sure that it's understandable that it's a bird. Here we have those branches. Okay, and we can start adding details to the bird. So I'm looking at those colors where the colors change from the head. So here there's quite a straight line, and then maybe the chest is a bit bigger. And then there is another branch here, and here we have those wings and the tail. Okay, so now we can start adding colors. So I'll be using these two grays. One is greenish gray and one is warmer gray plus a blue to create the background for my snowball. So I'm going to cover all of my snowball with these colors. This is the warmer color. It's okay if we cover the areas where the branches are. It's useful to draw them out just to remember where they are located. Your brain is still going to remember it. And I'm just leaving the bird alone. The rest I'm covering with the pastel. So I'm adding some blues into it. Some places more greens, like so. And now we can blend it all out. So here, if I see that I'm lacking the pigment some places, I will just add more, just to cover the color of the paper. Once again, here we are doing more of an illustration approach, as we are not going to be creating a detailed background or anything. So here we're focusing only on the snowball itself. And you can see how adding these 3 colors immediately gives us a more interesting color in total when blended. Because if it were just one and the same, it would look very dull. So using the same value but different colors really helps when creating an object that is only one color. So I'm blending it all out, and here with the white pencil I'm going to start adding that highlight on this side. So I see that there's the highlight, so it's easier for me to correct it already with the white pencil instead of just going with the pastels in there. Okay, next what we do is we start drawing the bird, and with the bird I'm going to start adding that black beak. I'm going to add the head first. We're not going to be drawing any eyes or anything here because they are not as important. So we need the excuse me, we need the snow globe to be the center of attention, not the bird. So the eyes are not as important. So I'm adding those wings with the black pastel, always working on the side. Next, I'm going to go into my yellows, and we're gonna add the tummy here, where I see these yellows. Again, switching up the colors. I'm not using only one yellow. I'm using different yellows of pretty much the same value, just to create the more interesting appearance. There's some of this yellow also here on the back. Then we go into lighter yellows, not going into whites yet, like so. Then we have the grays, so we're going to use the same gray that we used for the globe for the bird as well, and it's going to unite the image. So here I also see a bit of that dark black on the back of the bird as well, like so. And now with the white we can start adding those details, the lightest areas of our bird. Here we can add a bit of blue instead of just plain gray. Okay, and with a pastel pencil you can always correct the shape. Okay, and here I see also that the bird has this beautiful white chest. It's lighter than the color of the tummy, so we're gonna add that. Next, what we need to do is we need to add the branch. So for our bird to sit on the branch, I'm using these movements of my pastels, actually a little tiny bit of the pastel that broke off, and I'm using it to create those kind of jaggedy lines to indicate that it's a branch. It's going to be thicker at the base and thinner towards the bottom. There is also this branch going here a bit. And I'm looking at my bird and I see that this head is slightly just a bit bigger. I'm gonna go a bit with the black here to correct the shape. So I'm just using one brown here for now. It's very useful to keep these little bits of pastel that broke off. Oh, it's the wrong brown. To be able to create these tiny details. Okay, now with the black I'm going to add a shadow to it. just so that it doesn't look flat. And also lighter brown to create some areas of highlight on my branch. Okay, next we need red to create those beautiful berries, and I'm going to use quite a bright red and add those berries onto my branch. Also a couple here. Here you don't need to go exactly as you see in the reference. You can stray off a bit. And with a black pencil, you can use a darker red, or with a black pencil just to create a bit of shadow on those berries. I'm not using a black pastel because it would make them too dark. But with a black pencil, it mixes in with the red and it creates that appearance that we need. Just adding a bit of that. Then we see that our gray becomes a bit darker. So test this color here. Here at the bottom where we have this ellipse, we need to show it so that we show how this bottom part is actually shaped. So the bottom ellipse here, and we're showing that by adding slightly darker color here. And then on top of that, we go with the light and to create that edge of the ball itself. Okay, here I had a bit of these berries blown all over my work. We can fix that in a second. There we go. Okay, now let's deal with the bottom part, and in the bottom we have the light shining from this side. Actually, we did the shadow, we need to do it on this side more. And let's add the color to the stand where the globe is actually standing. So I'm adding first one color. And then into that color, I'm going to be adding the darks on the right side. And some lighter blues on this side, which we will then add also white on top of. I'm blending it vertically because it's basically a cylinder that we see here. And only this part where it touches the ball, we can blend it round. But here, just to intensify the sense of that shape. And it's even darker, cooler gray also over the top of our light, of our warm gray. Like so. Next we can add the highlight for now on this side here. Strictly vertically because it's a cylinder, as I said, and the light is going to reflect off of it vertically. Here there's this edge. Actually, I made it a bit too long, but it's perfectly fine. Not very proportionate to the reference, but it's perfectly okay. So with a lighter blue, we can continue this highlight on this side. And adding also this gray towards the bottom here, we can add also our greener gray. Like so. And now with the pencil, I'm going to start to add more detailed highlights onto the drawing here. Here we will have a bit of shadow. Okay, and then with the black pencil, I'll start adding those darkest shadows here. Like so. Then here we will see a bit of shadows, it curves around the ball. Like so. Also in here. And some of those lights will be reflecting also on this side, but not as white as on this side where we have the brightest highlight. And then under here, there will also be a little shadow under this thing part that kind of bulges out slightly. Okay, so we can darken it just a bit more. I'm going to use my pastel pencil to add a bit of darkness and blend it out. Just to make it feel as if it's curving around. Adding that highlight here. And now we're gonna add the highlights on our sphere. So for that, I will be using a white and a very light color. It actually can be even pink or light blue. So depends on what you want to be reflecting off of our sphere. And here, oh, went in with the dirty finger. Here I need to add more pastel because we didn't. Okay, like so. So I'm gonna clean my hands now, and I'm going to start adding those highlights. And I think I'm gonna be using light blue and white for this. So with this light blue, I'm going to start adding those highlights that are on this side here. And we're going over the berries here just to show that the glass is actually, it's coming towards us more than the berries. So the berries are inside the glass. And here over the blue, I will pass with my white. So here we need to show the thickness of this glass. So don't go with the white all the way until the edge of our bubble. We need to show that there's a thickness of glass here. It's not very thick, but there is still this thickness happening. And again, switching between my whites and blues. So layering them one on top of the other. I'm creating this highlight here. Okay, so here we will also have a lighter highlight. Let's make it blue here. And this is the way we're actually curving our shape of the sphere. And like on the bubble, we're going to be adding all the reflections that are going to go according to the shape of the sphere. Okay, just a bit brighter here. And over here, we need to add those windows reflecting. And they are reflecting. The reflection is curved, like so, covering the berries. This is why pastel matte is great, because you manage to cover other colors easily. So I'm just adding them as one shape for now, like so. And there's another window reflecting here. And also a bit of lighter color towards the bottom here. And we need to add those separations between the window panes. I'm gonna add this with a black pastel pencil. Doesn't have to be a pastel pencil, it can be charcoal pencil, but this way we can indicate that the windows are separated, like so. And here there's a bit of light happening on top as well. Okay, and curving this highlight as well. Okay, so now we have our lights in place. We can start adding the snow. How do we add the snow? So we take our white and we start crumbling it onto the paper. So imagine that our ball is shaken. And we have these snowflakes in there. Now I'm going to take a pencil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rub this pastel. So where there's too much, you can remove it easily. You can move it around a bit and then go over it again. Rubbing the pastel pencil, like so. You can use the pencil also to remove it in places. For example, if I want my branch to stand out more here, you can do that. And with a kneaded eraser, I'm going to clean up the areas around it. Knead it more so it's softer. I'm going to clean up the areas around my snowball. Another tip that I can give you here, instead of blowing, because for me it's very difficult to actually pick this up and then place it back so the camera sees everything that I'm doing when working. But what you can do is you can lift your drawing and just tap it against the table, and it's going to take all the excess pastel off of it. But anyway, you can clean it up with a kneaded eraser. Okay, when we have our background cleaned up, one last thing that's left is to actually add the text. And again, remember that it's going to go according to the ellipses that we drew here. And let's write a text here. Actually, you need to take a sharper pencil. So I've sharpened my pencil, and now I can add the text. Here where there's a highlight, it's going to disappear slightly. And now with a white one, I can take some places and make them lighter. There we go. Again, just pulling it back slightly so it's not as sharp. And there we go, we have our beautiful Christmassy snow globe.